might have to lock him up as he loves babies. And Tracy Postop.
Everybody's mics are on?
Hey, Marge.
All right. I got 6:30, so we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call, please.
Deb Bailey,
Here.
Marge Jorgensen,
Here.
Tony Platt, John Kraus,
Here.
Mary Coons,
Here.
Lisa Panzer,
Here.
Chad Cooley,
Here.
Gary Spielman,
Here.
John Hedges.
Here.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have minutes from the regular meeting March 8, special meeting March 22, and March 31.
I move for approval of the March 8th, March 22nd, and March 31st minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right. We got some visitors today, so thank you very much for joining us this evening and everybody else that's listening online. So appreciate your attendance this evening. Public comment. We have nobody signed up for public comment, so we will move on to announcements.
The board may recess into closed session per Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss specific employees and the superintendent, and Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The board will reconvene into open session for the possible transaction of business and adjournment.
All right, thank you. On to the agenda. Could I get a motion for adoption?
Also move.
Second.
Motion and a second then to adopt the agenda this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, swiftly moving along to 9.1, School of the Month, Washington Elementary. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Am I on? Yep, okay. All right. School and Year in Review of Washington. Are you one ahead of Oh, I can do that. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, good. All right.
Technology.
Take two. Here we go. I don't know if I can get the clicker to work myself. Here we go. Oh my gosh. There. No. No.
Jesse's coming to the rescue.
Is it me? Just go ahead. Yep. Oh. See? I'll turn that on too. There we go. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so I'll start with our greatest areas of need that we looked at this year. Again, just like last year, looking at going back to the state report card, we had to go back a couple years. Stuck with our same areas of need that we wanted to focus on. In English language arts, we had craft and structure, key ideas and details, and then writing was also a goal that we had as a school, so we stuck with those, and then math, numbers, and operations. And on our school perception survey, if you remember before, we had focused on the community last year, and so we continued with those same areas of need. And our objectives, so we extended those from 2019 to 2021, looking at moving ELA from 54.2 to 59.2% on the forward, so we'll see how we do this year. And then math, moving from 58.5 to 63.5% proficient. And then looking at moving our connectedness rating on that school perception survey from a 3.0 to a 3.25. So measuring our progress, forward exam, and then for ELA and math, both looking at our iReady data. We're looking at mid-year and our end-of-year data to see our improvements. And we're also looking within those at our gap area, which we're specifically honing in on students with student demographics and then students with special ed needs. Those are a couple areas that we needed to focus on. Our school perception survey, obviously we're going to use that again, and then we always do a parent and student survey and staff survey of our own at the end of the year, so we'll use those as well. So then I just broke down looking at the different areas at our action steps. So in English language arts, we had all the teachers do some means of goal setting with their students. Each grade level picked their own goals that they were going to choose to have the students set goal areas, and then those are shared at conferences. Our grade levels collaborate monthly with their partners, and they look at their data and discuss how to change things up in their classrooms. Again, that gap group, both of those gap groups, I monitored when beginning, middle of the year and looked at their growth. And then we talked as a group when we had our data meetings as far as what we can do to change things up to address kids who aren't meeting the growth that we would like. We continued our work on writing. I know I talked to you about that last year and we didn't get to finish. So this year we were able to finish the rubrics that we had developed as a building, looking at vocabulary use so that we were more consistent across the board, grade to grade with writing vocabulary, and then some editing checklists, and again using the same vocabulary with students. And then we implemented our writing folders, so teachers are now collecting samples of writing 2 times a year, and we have folders that will be passed from teacher to teacher, grade to grade, so they can see the progress of the students as they go through the school. So looking at our mid-year data, you can look on the left side, the percentage of kids who at mid-year were on or above grade level. And then on the right side, you see the typical progress toward typical growth. So when you're looking at on or above grade level, we would have liked to seen that a little higher at mid-year, higher percentages. But we were very pleased when we looked at the growth and how much growth kids had made, considering the gaps they've had in instruction since last year. Second grade, I mean, phenomenal, over 100%. Fifth grade, you'll notice that one is really low, lower than we'd like. The kind of anomaly, though, in fifth grade is that we had approximately 1/3 of our class was in virtual the entire first half of the year. So this was just after they had come back. So it really wasn't based on our instruction that first half of the year, you know, with that 1/3 of the kids. So we're hoping that with our interventions we've put in for the second half that we'll see some really good growth with those fifth graders. And then same kind of thing with math. When you look at our action steps, again, looking at that iReady data, that they can review monthly, and some even talk about it weekly. We have more data with the math. Again, looking at those gap groups, grouping kids in the classroom according to those gaps. Setting goals with students, weekly monitoring, shared with parents again at conferences. And again, that's data that I collect, and the math data I'm able to share with all the staff weekly, looking at those gap groups. And then we implemented the extra math this year as well. And then looking at their progress at mid-year, math data looks a little better. So again, on the left, on or above at grade level, mid-year, and then progress toward typical growth. Again, we had some really good growth at that mid-year point already, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And then last is the connectedness goal. So for this one, all of our staff have participated in the book study. It's called What Great Teachers Do Differently. Really focuses on relationship building. And then I had the support staff participate in a workshop on restorative practices. And then our PBIS team, again, we couldn't focus on the community outside the school, so this year we tried to focus inside the school, knowing that because of our COVID practices, it was really going to separate us. So we tried to do activities through PBIS and just classroom grade level things that would kind of bring the kids together, at least virtually within the school. All of our classes had buddy classrooms, so at the beginning of the year they would meet outside and just be separated, but be able to actually physically see, like kindergarten and third grades were partners and they could actually physically see each other. And then as we got into the colder weather, the teachers set up virtual book buddies, so the kids were able to get on their Chromebooks and see their partner in fourth grade if they were a first grader, and the fourth graders would read them stories virtually. And so at least we were able to make some neat connections that way. And then our student leadership team took on announcements this year, and again, we did those all virtually. So they come together with me once a week, and we create a video, and then that video is shared with the entire school on Monday. So again, they get to see each other a little live in action, and they really like that. And then we did monthly spirit days, so everybody, at least when you saw people in the hallways or in passing, you could see you were dressed similar, and they knew that we had these things going on together. And then tried to make some more of our PBIS events and a couple of our PTO events that were, again, virtual. We did things where we recorded videos and that, so the kids could at least have a little bit more connection and see each other. So we're going to end the year with a showcase, which will start next Monday. So each week for the rest of the year, one grade level will be showcased. We'll share a video with the whole school, and each kid will get to say like their name and something about school this year, or something that's, you know, my favorite, whatever. Maybe if it's a little younger kid, and then the fifth graders are going to share like a memory from Washington School, and we'll share those out for the next 6 weeks. So that's going to be our ending. So, and then I think at the very end, we have a little video. This is put together. It's a conglomeration of all the grades, all the classes. You'll see some little clips that you'll be able to see, like some of the COVID practices we had to put in place. You'll get to see some of just the regular learning that's still going on, just, you know, like any other year, and just the different touches that the teachers put on it. So, and a special ending for Mr. Pete.
some competition.
Yeah.
That was much more efficient.
Questions, comments?
No, nice job.
Washington?
The only thing I got to say is you're counting your days, so I wish you the best of retirement, and I want to thank you for all the years of service. I know you've been really instrumental in establishing the 4K and various community partnerships, and very instrumental in the wellness program for the district. So you definitely left a large footprint in our district. I think that'll be pretty hard to fill. So I wish you the best of luck in retirement.
Very nice.
Thank
All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to 9.2 then, transportation contract recommendation.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Should probably turn it off.
Oh. Oh, look at that. All right. So, some of this is review. BDUSD contracts with a selected vendor for regular transportation, including summer school, special needs transportation, and transportation for after-school activities and field trips. The district will pay nearly $1.5 million this year for contracted transportation. Because of the cost and the important role that transportation plays, we use an RFP process or request for a proposal to select its contracted transportation vendor. The last time that the district went through an RFP process for contracted transportation was 2014. At that time, it selected Johnson Bus Company and entered into an agreement for 3 years with 2 optional 2-year extensions. Currently, we are in the 2nd year of the 2nd extension, and per the contract, this agreement shall not be extended beyond August 31st, 2021. The district therefore issued an RFP for contracted transportation that will start with the 2021-22 school year. This is the timeline that we had for the RFP. So it went out to vendors on February 1st. We sent it out to companies that had contacted us expressing interest, and also to any other companies in the area that would be potentially interested in bidding. So February 15th, any questions from vendors were due to us. So after they looked at the RFP, if anyone had questions, they needed to be sent to me. And then I sent responses back to the vendors on February 22nd. So all the questions were put together and all of the answers were sent out to everybody so that there was an even playing field as far as what everybody knew. Proposals were due to us on March 15th. I then shared those with our team that we had, which was made up of 2 board members and 3 administrators. And then we met to discuss those proposals on March 23rd. After reviewing the proposals, we decided to interview the vendors that had submitted proposals. So those took place on March 30th and April 5th. And then the selection team met again on April 7th to discuss the interviews and the final steps of the selection process, which brings us to April 12th, which is tonight, where we will be presenting our recommendation from the committee, hopefully for the approval of the board. So we received proposals from 4 vendors in response to our RFP. So Johnson School Bus, who is our current vendor, Badger Bus, Lamers Bus Lines, and Go Right Way. All 4 vendors are reputable, highly qualified transportation companies that serve school districts in this area of Wisconsin. Many aspects of the proposals were similar except for cost. However, the team decided that cost should not be the only deciding factor in the selection process. Because of how similar the proposals were outside of cost, the team decided to meet with all 4 of the vendors in order to personally hear from them. And we did meet in person because we thought that would be just a better feel than meeting virtually. So we wanted to learn more about their services and then be able to ask any questions that we had. So on March 30th, we met with Johnson and Badger, and then on April 5th, we met with Lamers and Go Right Way. All 4 of the companies have a strong history in Wisconsin. Most of them are family-owned. They began here. They pride themselves on safety and bus maintenance. They have their own driver training program. The use of technology for routing is now pretty common. They all use GPS tracking and have videos on, or cameras on the bus for video monitoring, and are taking additional steps to actively recruit new drivers. This is a challenging environment to try to hire drivers in, so all of the companies are taking proactive steps to do that. Based on customer service, community involvement, specific driver training, and feedback from districts, the team narrowed the field to 2 companies. And then from there, based on cost, the team then selected Badger Bus to recommend to the board. So just a little bit about Badger Bus. They were founded in 1920. And they began doing school transportation in the 1930s. They're probably best known for their motor coach division that they have. They currently serve 2 school districts in Wisconsin. However, those 2 districts are the Madison Metropolitan School District and the Verona School District. So even though it's only 2 districts, it's 251 vehicles, 219 drivers, and over 13,000 students that they transport. And then they provide other services in the Madison area also. They contract with Madison Metro, which is the Madison bus company, and they provide their paratransport transportation with ADA vehicles for special needs. And they also do numerous shuttles around Madison as well. So why did the selection team choose Badger? The commitment to the Beaver Dam School District and its community. They had reached out to us even before we even issued an RFP, expressing their interest in coming to our district and being a part of our district. And they had a strong interest in coming here and in becoming an active part of the community, and there are some ties with that company to Beaver Dam as well. They have a variety of vehicles in their fleet outside of different sizes of school buses. They do have the motor coach division, if that was ever something that we decided to use, if we had a team going to state or something like that. And then they also have vans, smaller vans for smaller transports as well. Their recruitment, their process for drivers in general, as far as recruitment, retention, the culture that they talked about, and then some of the specific training that they provide for drivers for student behaviors and discipline, and the way that they handle some of those. The committee liked that. Their willingness to hire our current drivers, and that was something that the other companies had expressed as well, is if they came here, you know, not being the current vendor, that they would all be very willing to hire our current drivers who would want to continue to drive for the district. And then potentially something that was really big for us was the feedback from references from other districts that we talked to about all of the companies. But the feedback that we got in particular from Badger was very, very positive. They had a competitive price. They were not the lowest price. They had the second lowest price of the 4 proposals. So looking at what that would potentially mean, so for looking at the regular and then the special needs transports, which are the ones that we would use the most, the routes are going to end up costing about $40,000 more per year. So the cost for those regular and special needs transports is about $1.25 million. So $40,000 on that, and it because it's a daily thing. So when you look at the price proposals themselves, the amounts aren't that different. But when you consider that we're running those routes every single day, it adds up. But we will work with Badger to try to mitigate some of this increase through routing efficiencies, if at all possible. So we'll see what we can do with that. So then pending a successful meeting of the minds on the terms of the contract. So even though, you know, the prices are basically established in the proposals provided, there's still the entire rest of the contract. They received a template so they know what we're looking for, but obviously there are some things in there that would still need to be negotiated. But the recommendation would be to award a transportation contract to Badger Bus for the 2021-22 through 2023-24 school year, with an optional 2-year extension, and to authorize the board president and clerk to sign the contract once it's finalized on behalf of the district. Are there any questions from the board?
So the last contract we had the option to extend twice. You
Correct.
decided not to do that this time, or?
Correct. Yep.
I was one of the board members on the committee, and the proposals ranged, when we got them, ranged from 45 pages to 165 pages for the groups. So it was a lot of paperwork to look through. And that was, we met virtually first as a team, and then we decided, we talked, and we said we wanted to meet the teams. Because initially, as a board member, I'm looking at cost, and I came in and I says, well, look at the cost, okay. But then when you listen to Melissa Gehring and Brandon and some of the needs that the school districts are looking, the schools themselves were needing, and they had different issues, and you don't want to have an event scheduled, and then the day before, the bus company call you and say, we can't meet the needs, for a special event or something like that. So those were all things that we really needed to stress and talk about. And that's why we decided, and we asked Anne Marie to set up the actual interviews. And rather than do it virtually, we felt we could do it better in person, because you get a better feel for things. And I think it was very eye-opening. It was, everybody was really excited to make a proposal and all that. And then we looked at the recommendations, and got a lot of them from different school districts and things like that. And it did fall on the side of Badger. And so even though they were a little higher than the lowest price person or company, that was a recommendation as the committee. So.
Other questions from the board? I noticed some of the technology stuff in the Badger Bus paperwork. Do we know how much of that stuff our current vendor was using? Like, for instance, obviously, they all probably use some kind of route finder, but they talked about Zonar, the smart fleet management solutions, in my view, a map-based locator.
Well,
Yeah, it's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be a difference. So the
the ability to link up with Skyward and stuff like that for some direct contact with the parents and stuff like that. They were all doing similar type things and feel they can handle it. There's different GPS monitoring and Zonar or whatever.
Yeah, the GPS, that across the companies, I think all of them have
Yep.
that. And then, as far as the routing, Badger and our current, they're two different routing programs, but they basically do the same thing.
Okay.
And then there are additional, there are additional things that we could add on to as well, at a cost. And that's something we'll have to look at, but all of them have that type of option for example, being able for parents to track on their phone, where the bus is using that GPS, which is another discussion. But basically, the technology across the board was really comparable.
And I see they talked about fuel-driven, propane versus not. And I know that they said in their proposal that, they're continuing to work on higher percentage of vehicles on propane. Do we know our current vendor?
I believe we had 8
Okay.
of our current vehicles that are propane.
Of approximately how many? It doesn't need to be exact.
I want to say, well, I think we have 18 large buses. But Badger's proposing to bring in even more. That's the direction that they are hoping to go.
Obviously headquartered out of Madison, right?
Correct.
And their current customer base is very Madison related. So Beaver Dam will be a little further outside of their typical travel area. Any concerns from the team as to how that will work?
No, they'd have a management team here. I mean, they'd have an actual location here. So all of the buses would be here every day. I know that they are trying to expand. So I think they're branching out. But they have people here on site, and they were very committed to getting everything ready to go for the first day, including having their Madison people here, to make sure that everything got off and running smoothly. So they seemed very dedicated to getting us up and running.
Yeah, they indicated that they would definitely be having a terminal in Beaver Dam if they did get the contract here. So, in fact, all the other companies did the same thing, that if they were not our current provider, that they would definitely have their presence here in town. Because you don't want somebody having to drive, 30 minutes, 50, or 60 minutes to get to the school, so.
And all the companies had similar inflationary clauses as far as cost of gas or whatever?
Right, so those were a little different. Everyone is different. And Badger actually provided two different pricing options, one that didn't include a fuel clause and one that did. And there was a very minimal discount for going with the one that did include the fuel clause, because obviously you're assuming a certain amount of risk when you go with that. Likely we would not go with that just because of how low the fuel costs are right now. And so to err on the side of safety, I think not including a fuel clause would be the better way to go to kind of prevent against what happens if gas prices go way up. Diesel prices.
Yeah.
Other questions Primary regarding the transportation contract.
Thanks for your time. That was a lot of work.
It was interesting.
I make a motion that we approve Badger Bus as our bus company for the 2021-22 through 23-24 school years with an option to extend.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve transportation contract with Badger Bus. Roll call vote, please.
Hey, just 1 second
Yep.
before we do that. Do we need to put in that motion that we authorize the board president and clerk to sign the contract, or does that need to be in the motion?
Include that. Put in that motion to include that authority.
Okay.
So would you want us to amend it?
Somebody can, yeah.
Okay.
add that in.
Amend the motion to include that the board president and clerk can sign the contract on behalf of the district.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then for that amendment to include myself and the clerk to sign the contract on behalf of the district. We will now take a roll call vote.
Marge Jorgensen?
Yes.
John Cox?
Yes.
Mary Coombs?
Yes.
Lisa Panzer?
Yes.
Chad Greenlee?
Yes.
Gary Spielman?
Yes.
John Chichesky?
Yes.
Deb Dillon?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you to the whole team for the work.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marge, and I think Tony, was Tony also on there?
Yep.
So thank you guys for sitting in on that and look forward to our relationship with Badger Bus. With that, we will move on to 9.3, return to school plan update.
You got a copy? Okay, don't worry about it. It wasn't that. All right. Well, I'm excited that I have an update and I don't have any grand recommendations to change anything, so that's good. Maybe, I guess it depends on what maybe you're thinking as you're watching this from home. But so our return to school plan update, again, we continue to monitor things, very regular conversations. Our county still remains in phase 2, which is that yellow identification through the Harvard model. Again, that's very, very good. If you go to the health department and look at kind of how they break down the different components, you see a lot of green right now, so that's really positive. We're hopeful that we move into phase 3. That has not been confirmed yet, and as I think we've heard and listened, there's some little ebbs and flows of a few numbers, perhaps in the community, and definitely outside of our community in a couple areas. We have not seen those increases necessarily in our district boundary or in our schools at this point in time. But again, things are trending in a really good spot, relatively stable. Our average daily increase really has not changed. There's a period between our last board meeting, or the last update, which was March 5th, that I had included for the average daily increase, which was 1.7. So between then and now, which again, it still is 1.7, there was a time where it really dipped down, and that average daily increase was much lower. But we're back to that, I guess, 1.7 piece. So again, that's good. From a context standpoint, you see that it was 7+ in January. And again, we continue to publish the numbers on the website. If we take those numbers and look at those over time, soon I'm going to drop off the fall because the numbers are getting really, really tiny to read on this particular chart. But what we see is a consistent trend of low numbers. On the left, you see the actual cases, and on the right, you see the student and staff quarantines. Student quarantines are in red, staff quarantines are in blue. So from a staffing standpoint, we've continued to be very, very strong and not having a lot of people who've been negatively impacted, and our students have been able to be in school consistently a lot more since late winter, and we started early spring. So again, that's very, very good news for us. Current academic instructional model, again, we stay in 4K through 5 in person 5 days a week. 6-12 is 4 days. The virtual piece we had kind of foreshadowed based on some numbers and information that we had, so I just wanted to give you an update of where it actually landed So for K through 5, we currently have just under 11% of our students are receiving their services through completely virtual instruction. It was 17% in the third quarter. The middle school is at 17% virtual. It was 21.1% in the third quarter. The high school is at 25% virtual. It was right around 28% during the third quarter. And then the DSLA, actually, again, we're dealing with a smaller number of students, so it only takes a couple perhaps to move to bump that. We had anticipated that it was going to hold steady, but we did have a few students move to virtual, and I know Dan and his team is doing a good job of trying to support those students as well. Not recommending any changes to the model, and at this point in time, I don't see any reason why we would change it before the end of the school year. Just a vaccine update. I just wanted to reiterate, we mentioned it last time, but the appreciation, the partnership that we have for the Marshfield Medical Center and the Health Department for what they did in helping coordinate that effort. We've got a very large staff, and they did an excellent job. So all the district staff that were interested have been fully vaccinated in our district. And just a kind of I guess a PSA, but for people in our community, vaccination availability for the public is now considered, and I quote, wide open by the Dodge County Health Department. So people can go in anywhere where there may be a slot available, and there's a lot of different opportunities for those folks. If that's something that interests them, that's an option for those people. Activities and our facilities. So not too much on the facility end, just a little context. We do have people that are starting to use our facilities. The middle school, the high school, the district office. We know that they have to participate and use any of the protective practices that we've identified. So we talk with them, work with them before they come in and use it. But our facilities are getting used. Elementary schools are not being used, again, until likely the summer. And then that use in the elementary schools, just for our community to understand and appreciate, some of that will depend, the availability might depend on actually maintenance schedules and summer school and other things that we have going on, but we anticipate that all of our facilities will be accessible come summer. And right now, the district office, middle school, and high school are available when they actually are available and not being used. The alternative fall season is going well. Actually, volleyball wrapped up their season this past weekend. Football and soccer will continue for a few more weeks as the WIA calendar indicates. The regular spring sports season starts on the 19th. I won't get into too much details on the next thing. I know that our student representative is going to give a more thorough update, but again, we do have a modified homecoming week coming up, a modified prom event on the 15th. The high school administration's working with advisors and students on some of that planning, and you'll probably hear more about that at this point in time. I will say relative to the prom event, and I know that the board has probably received perhaps a little bit of feedback on that. At this point in time, the prom event is a BDHS student-only event. That's how it's being planned. I did poll the Badger Conference SUPs as well as some other superintendents on that. I will tell you that the majority are keeping it in-house, but there are some that might have an exception to that particular rule. One of the things that we've looked at is just how do you manage that event with the number of students. We're including this prom is for our junior class and our senior class. So we don't have a complete handle on what that attendance is going to look like, so some of that is part of the reason why we would have it be a little bit more controlled, but I know that there may be some interest in opening it up from some of the student standpoint. That's not my recommendation at this point in time, but certainly if the board has any questions in a little bit, I'd be happy to ask or talk through that a little bit more. Anything that we do as we get closer to the events, because we're talking with the health department every week, we go over things. They might learn of something new. There could be some additional context that would help inform us with our planning. But right now things are going very well, and we don't anticipate any grand challenges moving forward. A little bit on masking. Our health department continues to recommend masking indoors. Most health departments do. I know there's been some information in the news about some school districts. It's definitely not the majority, but some school districts looking at making some adjustments. I'm not recommending that at this point in time. And our health department continues to recommend that we do masks, so that is the position of me and the administration, and that's what we would continue to encourage the board to consider throughout the end of this school year. Outdoor masking is required at venues whereby social distancing can't be achieved and maintained. That determination is at the discretion of the administration. So there are WIA guidelines for some specific events and things, and generally what you might see going from school to school or event to event that might be outside is when people enter, typically because it's a little bit more of a funneled location, you're going to see masking required pretty much all across the state, or at least this part of the state. And then depending on the venue and what kind of distancing can be achieved, masking might not look the same from district to district, so, or from event to event, depending on what the seating arrangements look like or otherwise. But we work through those, and we'll continue to look at the WI recommendations relative to that, also for participants and coaches as well. So, and if people have questions or there's a specific venue situation, like as we plan for things, our ADs in our conference and our that we compete with, they talk extensively. They're updating each other before events even take place. So the lines of communication are open. And obviously the coaches, if they had any questions, they would work directly with the athletic director on that piece. And that's all I have for an update. Any questions?
I have two.
Perfect.
So the first one is the decision not to modify the high school schedule back to a full 5 days.
Yes.
So you feel strongly that you need the Wednesdays yet in the schedule as is?
Yes, because of the number of students that we have virtual and some of the other demands on our staff relative to that planning. And I do believe there is a little bit of an ancillary benefit, perhaps more so at the upper level, like the junior and senior level. I think having to manage that time, some of the assignments and tasks, and not necessarily be in person hasn't all been completely a curse. I think there's a little bit of a blessing in there as far as their preparedness for post-secondary experiences. Although I will not be recommending that we're 4 days beyond this year. I just think that it's not all bad.
Okay. So that was the first one. And the second one was, so we've heard from a student, at least one.
Yep.
And I thought that she brought forward a really good concern and expressed it well about why she at least would like to bring a guest that was an alumni of Beaver Dam who missed the opportunity last year to go with them to it. So I guess I wouldn't be opposed if all of our students had the opportunity to purchase their tickets first, maybe opening it up to guests if we had spaces left in the last couple of weeks before prom. I know that's a tight timeline, but that's just was my thought when I read that and when I thought about it, that I understand the position and I feel for them. So I know that the experience for our students is primary, our current students, but I wouldn't be opposed to trying to find a way.
Any other thoughts on that? I mean, I will tell you that is an option that we have discussed lightly at this point in time, because there's been there's a little bit more focus on some of the other logistics just to making sure that it would happen. But if we were going to do that, I would say that the timeline would probably not be overly friendly. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because we'd have to give our students enough time to be able to make that commitment. And for some students, that's, takes a little bit of time planning or otherwise. And then it would be based on a set number that we had as far as max attendance that we were going to allow, which we have an idea of what that number is, based on the size of the venue that we're holding that in.
Can you review what the normal attendance for a prom would be and what you're trying to estimate?
Well, typically an average prom, now Ms. Gearing went over this with me a little bit, and Russ might be able to chime in, but I believe it was around like a 225 number, give or take, and it depended on that particular year. We're anticipating probably closer to 300 plus, based on some of the energy around it and the fact that it's kind of going to have a junior and senior recognition opportunity. So we anticipate that it's going to be larger. And then the venue at this point in time, the max limit is probably going to be about 350 for that. So that's just something to keep in mind. So there could be some opportunity.
And review what the venue is?
I apologize, Abby, if you were probably going to reference it. Do you know what the venue is going to be?
I just know that they were thinking about doing it outside.
Okay, yeah, so it's going to be a large event tent. Huge. So I'm not supposed to call it a carnival tent because that kind of, but it's not a Coleman, I can tell you that. So it's outside, but it's a controlled environment from a tent standpoint. It works out with some of the other logistical planning associated with that. Large enough to have a prom inside of it for approximately 350 people and have seating. So big. So, I mean, if there's a general interest, I don't necessarily know if there needs to be a motion on this specifically, but if there's a general interest from the board for us to try to work out a timeline whereby we give everybody in-house an opportunity, and if there are other opportunities, we can definitely explore that and the practicality of that.
I think,
Try to thread the needle.
I mean, just from my opinion, I mean, I would try to give as many opportunities as possible. With that being said, though, I mean, we've really done a good job at controlling issues, quarantines and positives during the course of the year with everything we've done. And I would hate to see that fall to the side with just one event. So I think we got to be careful. I think we got to really take what the health department recommends into consideration. But with all that being said, I think we're always trying to look at as many opportunities as we possibly can give kids. And so if we can give additional opportunities, we should try to do that.
I can talk, I mean, we can talk, definitely include that and talk with the health department a little bit more as we consider maybe some other planning. I think the other thing to keep in mind from a context standpoint is there's a number of school districts, perhaps our size, that are actually going to hold their proms in the summer. That's something we were trying to avoid doing. We wanted to have it during the actual school year. And they're holding it in the summer and not necessarily allowing guests either. Again, I'm not saying that that's blanket. I mean, there is some differentiation across districts, but we are trying to do this in the spring. So, and some of it's going to depend on where things are at. And we all have to be prepared. I mean, we're planning forward. We're really optimistic. The numbers look good. The feedback we're getting from the health department's positive. But we all need to realize too that there's a chance that we have to make other adjustments. And unfortunately, some of those could be in the 11th hour.
I mean, and that's entirely understandable this year. But if we're not living in a bubble, we're doing sports with other schools. We're doing, we are out and about in the community. That I don't think this is, for most of these kids, outside of their normal risk level of interaction to allow some guests.
I thought much the same as you, Joanne, and especially because my understanding is these guests would potentially mostly be last year's seniors who didn't have much opportunity. But I think first and foremost, it's what sort of venue and how can we keep everybody safe and have manageable numbers. So kind of back to administration and the staff that's planning it, because I think you have the details that you need to do it right.
So
and
even
Mel does have rules for guests, correct? Like there's an age limit, there's a...
Yep, there's a whole, basically, there's a form of certain things. And,
okay.
Yep.
And even though the venue
vetting process, if you will.
Even though the venue's outdoors in a tent, it's still mask required.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be an opportunity, I understand, obviously during it's actually, I think it'll be a little bit both. There'll be a little bit more of something that could be video streamed from a Grand March standpoint. And there might be an opportunity during that to obviously take your mask off for a moment in time, but generally speaking, it's a completely masked event.
Okay.
So, Abby, I don't know if we're going to talk about this at all, but just from a student standpoint, what are your thoughts?
I've been thinking about this all day because I've obviously I've talked with the student and I've heard their concerns. I got to read their nice email that they sent. It was very well written, and I do agree that we have been out and around in the community and and seeing other people, so it wouldn't be an exposure that we haven't seen before. And if there's possible solutions to this, I know they're talking about controlling numbers, but doing something such as a simple temperature check for the guests that are coming in is another way we can help regulate. And personally, I work in another school district, not typically for the school district, but I'm in and around other kids from another school district, so I understand the whole thing of being in and around other people. So I think it's something definitely worth considering, and it's important to a lot of students here. I've heard a lot of feedback on that issue.
All right, good, thank you. So I think Marky got some feedback there.
Yep.
You know, I think a majority of the board probably feels that we could try to do whatever we can possibly do. So we'll leave it up to admin and specifically to high school to see what we can do there.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Any other questions?
So you're still in contact with the county on a regular basis?
Yes. And the meetings, I'll be honest with you, the meetings are a little bit shorter, which is a good thing.
Right.
It's reflective of it. But we still have a weekly check-in on Tuesdays, so all the local school districts and the health department, their representatives. So it's good. All right.
Anything else
Thank
for
you so
Mark?
much for your time.
All right. Uh, 9.4, recognitions. Anybody have any recognitions they want to share tonight?
I just really want to thank the high school team and Mark and anybody that's been working on really putting together the best experience that these kids can have in these last few months. I know it's jamming together homecoming and prom and anything else they can fit in, but I think it's just well worth your effort, and I appreciate that you've cared enough about how all these kids feel about these events to do your best to make sure they all happen. So, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to have volunteers back in the schools. I enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys let it happen.
I would just like to recognize Melissa Gehring and Brandon Kraus they were the, besides Anne Marie, were the other administration who were involved in the transportation contract. It was a lot of time involved in making decisions and interviewing everybody, and they came with they're the ones who got great references and feedback from different school districts and asked the pertinent questions. And I was really impressed with how the team worked. That was great.
Anybody else?
I have one. Well, it's technically two, but it's in one. So juniors Elise Braun and Elise Mangan for being selected to the WSMA State Honors Choirs. So Elise Braun is going to be with the mixed ensemble, and Elise Mangan will be with the treble ensemble. So it's a big deal to get identified for that. So kudos to them.
Anybody else?
And the girls volleyball team, I guess, that did well over the weekend, and, you know, it's a shortened seasons all the way around and everything going on. It's good to see things back a bit in the sports world.
All right. On to 10, reports presented by the board. We will start out with Abby.
All right. So I'm going to discuss what our month has looked like and what it's going to look like. So next week is our homecoming week. That'll be the 18th through the 24th. It's been great to have an opportunity to even have a homecoming this year. There has been many districts that weren't as fortunate as us in having an opportunity like this. The theme selected for this year has been the 80s. And with that, we've been able to coordinate some dress-up days around the 80s, while also keeping some traditional days such as green and gold and class colors. That being said, we weren't able to have a homecoming dance, and we understand why that has not been an opportunity for us, but we've been able to keep some traditional elements that have been seen throughout all the years. We have the beaver tails for the seniors that will be available, and they'll also be judging for that. And then we also still have our homecoming court, and then on Saturday night, a movie will be played based on the 80s theme. I remember some were Ferris Bueller's Day Off or Footloose, and the students got to vote on which 80s movie they'd like to watch. And then that night, the Beaver Tail winner will be announced, and Homecoming King and Queen will also be announced. And then I was going to go in and talk about the volleyball season that just currently ended. They won their first round of regionals. That was against Waupun, not too far away, about 20 minutes. And then, unfortunately, they were unable to beat Sun Prairie in their second round. And then one last recognition was our trap team that had an invitational this past weekend. They placed third out of the 19 teams that were there. And then I was going to touch on the prom thing for a little bit, just a light touch, but we've already gone over that. And then that's what I have for tonight.
So did they pick a movie then, or didn't pick a movie?
I don't know. I'm really hoping for Footloose. I voted for Footloose, and I love Footloose. I watched it like 2 or 3 weeks ago to see that come up again. I was like, I'll watch it again.
If those are the two, you can't go wrong.
Oh, you can't go.
If you need anything, Abby, I was class of 85 from Beaver Dam, so I lived the 80s. We can share share our information with you.
I still love the 80s. I listen to all the 80s music.
Oh.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
It was, I wish I grew up during that time.
Any questions, comments? All right.
I actually wanted to expand on that. So you reference volleyball. So, and somebody else had acknowledged Mel for the bus transportation thing, but she did a great job of positioning us. Had we had the opportunity to continue winning, we would have been able to host just about everything here at the field house. So we still are hosting the sectional. WIA is using our facility, so because we open those things up, and then actually likely state. So of course the venue looks different, and we're following the different protocols. But it was a nice play to get us worked in. So we had the stage set, and things went really well because we beat Waupun. That's always positive. But we'll still be able to host some things that's good for the community as well.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hold on. Footloose? He's nodding over there.
It
must
is
have been
Footloose?
Is it confirmed? Footloose?
That is confirmation.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh my
No
gosh,
tractor
I
races
remember
are
when it
allowed
came
on
out. This
district
is like I'm
property,
feeling
just to be clear.
Abby.
Oops, I think I gave it away. No.
All right. Thank you very much, Abby, for that report. Appreciate it. Operations and teaching and learning did not meet, so I believe we're going to fall into the normal schedule this month with teaching and learning next week. And
Correct.
Operations, April 26th.
Can we just talk about our workshop a little bit, since we did do that?
yeah, we can do that. In fact, that's a
engagement.
great segue into board engagement.
Yep.
Okay.
So I will open it up for any of the board members who want to share any engagement opportunities we had during the course of the last month.
I suppose I should go first then.
You should.
I didn't mean I wanted to share. I'm like, somebody should share. No, it was a wonderful workshop. Thank you for all the hard work that went into it. Rob really had us do, some work and some discussion about how we feel about just in, I can't.
Equity.
Equity, my gosh, yes. And we had some homework after that too, where I've had a chance to do a lot of the listening and a little bit of the reading. My bingo card kind of went all the way across, and then it's working its way down. So it's been really interesting, and it's been a topic where the more I learn, the more I know I need to keep learning. So thank you for the time, Rob. That was really well done. So.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, in the time that I've been on the board, it's probably one of the better workshops we've had. And not necessarily how it was put together, just the information that was provided to the board. I think it was very educational for all of us. So, again, much appreciated.
I have to admit that, given the homework, it was kind of like homework, but it was very interesting.
Especially after, or during the process of you having to go through transportation.
Yeah, right.
You had double homework.
Yeah, but I picked more than one, because the short ones seemed, hey, wow, that's interesting, so, yeah.
Yep, it's good.
Anything else on the equity workshop, or I believe we had PAT, SAT meetings? Any other discussions?
I participated in the parent advisory team committee meeting. Informative as always. We really have a really good group of parents on that committee, and they asked some interesting questions and gave some valuable input to Mark, I think, so.
Awesome.
I think some of that was maybe mentioned at the staff advisory team meeting that was later that day, which I attended virtually. And there was a good, healthy agenda, updates and an overview. There was feedback received regarding the 22-23 calendar, update or the prospective look of the student handbook, had some conversation around it. And the one, I guess, not that the rest of these weren't all very interesting, they were. But the last one, lessons learned from this year, what to keep and what not to keep. That was fun to listen to. And some of the ones that I might have said don't keep or keep were not exactly the same way the staff looked at it, which made it very interesting to me. I thought that one of the staff mentioned having less kids in the lunchroom and playground at a time and more staff had less behaviors in the lunchroom. Many of them echoed that, which does make logistical sense to me when you have fewer kids moving around. Or the option, teachers were able to do phone conferences. And while I personally would probably like to sit down face to face, I understand not everybody's schedule allows that. And so those phone conferences, or they could have been video phone conferences, gave teachers and parents an opportunity to meet outside of those strictly scheduled parent-teacher conference time. Probably made it a little crazier for the teachers who were doing it, but gave opportunities then to touch base with parents. What else popped out? The sorry, I'm reading my notes, and I actually typed these, so I should be able to read them. The phone conferences, having the Wednesdays not have students in school because of all the virtual work that's being done and the deep cleaning. That was kind of a no-brainer. Oh, I know. The other one that I have found myself in my work world, while I love in-person meetings, to go virtual and not have to worry about the commute time, even though I don't live in New York City or Boston. Even a 10-minute drive when you need to get away from point A, get over to point B, and be ready for another meeting. The staff reiterated that not every meeting has to be virtual, but that does make it easier if there's a meeting coming up and you got to dash from, I just got out of classes and I have to get to the ESC for a meeting. I can just click on my computer and be there and be fully committed to the meeting. So just some of those things I thought were very interesting. And I was happy to be part of that.
All right. Again, I just want to thank the board. I know that we have a lot of opportunity for involvement, and you guys have all shown or showed up for all those opportunities. And so thank you very much for continuing to be involved in everything we do. With that, we will move on to 11. So if I could have a motion.
I move the board recess into closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss specific employees and the superintendent, and Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent E, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The board will reconvene into open session for the possible transaction of business and adjournment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
John Coe,
Yes.
Mary Kay,
Yes.
Lisa Kansas,
Yes.
Jeff Reed,
Yes.
Gary Steelman,
Yes.
Brent Rogowski,
Yes.
Beth Bailey,
Yes.
Mark Schroeder.
Yes.
All right, we will be back. Actually, go ahead.
Either chiropractic or
We're gonna be down,
Okay, yes. Because I've always wanted to switch, like, PA is my routine.
stream stays.
And you can't do much with a dog. It's stepping stones.
right.
And I have people in PT school, pharmacy school, PA, I can go to med school. So I'm like still thinking about
There's a
doing
ton of stuff, and even like, we do business with a company called Connectedness in Southern Colorado, Wisconsin. And they develop supplements, whole food supplements, and they hire a lot of biologists to work on those formulas, which is a super cool thing because more and more people are getting into that. So there's like a ton of stuff out there, but it's hard to see it. So my sister Julie Sweeter is the pharmacist, and she's the manager of the Randolph Hometown Pharmacy. So that pharmacy is like super small, but she have like a little more space and time, maybe if you wanted to shadow her.
No, I will definitely let you know because it's been so hard for people like,
Right.
getting in and around.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep it going.
Thank you.
I suppose I better go to where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
See you later.
I'll see you soon.
You don't have to talk that long.
She's a busy senior.
Yeah.
I blame you, I tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this senior? I'm gonna go to the gym actually.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, the rest of this is. Wish I work.
The sheet looks like a lot. We'll be good. No, it doesn't.
were the two of you doing in here?
Does Abby stay with us?
No, not usually.
I gave her permission to go.
Yeah, singing
Yeah.
dance, or what were you doing?
Really?
Duly noted. She was given permission to leave.
I said if anybody blames you, you blame me.
There you go.
I might not.
Nothing like closed session to chase everybody away.
Bev, how come we didn't buy more land from the,
All right, we are,
Clearview brought the whole thing?
we are, we got everybody.
Money was an issue, Gary.
We are reconvened back into open session. We will move on to 13.
All right, we have 5 resignations and 6 retirements on the agenda tonight. Retirements include 6 individuals who have served our district in totality for almost 200 years. So we're very fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with them and wish them the best of luck in their next chapters, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention their names. So there's Sue Beal, Missy Nelson, Ann Pearson, Lila Rapinski, Gail Teet, and Sis Ulrichsen.
It's awesome.
I move the board approve the resignations and retirements as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second then to approve the resignations and retirements is presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, we thank them for their years of service.
Yeah.
We have no leaves of absence, so I'll move right on to 13.3, appointments. There are 11 appointments for your consideration. One of them is a long-term sub, and the rest are for next school year.
I move the board approve the appointments as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the appointments as presented. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mary Coons,
Yes.
Lisa Kansas,
Yes.
Chad Reed,
Yes.
Gary Steelman,
Yes.
Brent Ledesky,
Yes.
Ed Billy,
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
Doug Crowe.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost my place. That moves us to 13.4, renewal of teacher contracts.
Renewal of teacher contracts is a statutory requirement that we do every year. At this time, I'm asking for your approval granting the administration the authority to issue teacher contracts to current certified staff for the 2021-22 school year. With your approval, we will then issue teacher contracts no later than May 15th, and teachers must return them signed no later than June 15th.
I make a motion that we give the administration the authority to renew teacher contracts for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then for renewal of teacher contracts for 2021, 2022. Need a roll call vote again, please?
Lisa Kansas,
Yes.
Chad Reed,
Yes.
Gary Steelman,
Yes.
Brent Ledesky,
Yes.
Doug Billy,
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
John Crowe,
Yes.
Mary Coons.
Yes.
All right, and then ratification of Beaver Dam Education Association 21-22 collective bargaining agreement.
Marge, are you
Oh,
going to go or do
okay,
you want
yep.
me to? I'm here at your back.
I am.
Poker.
Got your back.
Okay, got it, yeah. The BDEA has, membership has ratified the collective bargaining agreement. And I make a motion that we accept the collective bargaining agreement between the Beaver Dam Unified School District and the Beaver Dam Education Association for the 2021-2022 school year as documented. I don't know.
I'll second it.
And so their collective bargaining agreement from the documents we received provided the CPI, as Anne Marie had suggested, within the lanes and items that she has now, correct?
Through the
So
levels
each,
that they.
yeah, so each one of the levels is going to get the
Correct.
CPI added to it, and that's just And that's the extent essentially of this
That
ratification.
we could negotiate, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the maximum allowable CPI is 1.23% this year, and that's what we're looking at.
Yep. Okay.
So the motion good, Mary?
Yep.
All right, and John, you second?
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion and a second then, ratify the Beaver Dam Education Association 21-22 collective bargaining agreement. Roll call vote.
Ed Freeman,
Yes.
Gary Spillman,
Yes.
Brian Tyjeski,
Yes.
Beth Bailey,
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
John Kraus,
Yes.
Mary Coombs,
Yes.
Lisa Cantor.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just as a side note, this is the only thing that we could negotiate. There were some things in the negotiation session that we talked about, some things that we're going to be conferring on and meeting, like handbook language and stipends and things like that, that we've talked about in the past. So, but this is the only thing we could actually negotiate, so.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Marge. Other business, payment of claims.
I move the board pay the claims in the amount of $1,115,629.67.
Second.
Motion and a second for payment of claims. Roll call vote again, please.
Gary Spillman,
Yes.
John Tyjeski,
Yes.
Beth Bailey,
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
John Kraus,
Yes.
Mary Coombs,
Yes.
Lisa Cantor,
Yes.
Chad Freeman.
Yes.
Excuse me though, Joanne, what did you say, which dollar amount? I
$1,115,000.
think you're wrong.
I'm sorry, is that the wrong amount?
The total financial claims?
Probably the next page.
There's
Hold
second
on.
page.
I'm sorry, we'll need to do that again. Sorry, I thought I was at the bottom. Total financial claims are $4,185,892.22.
Second.
All right, so we have amended motion with the correct amount.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And a second by Gary. Now we'll do roll call vote again.
Gary Spillman,
Yes.
John Tyjeski,
Yes.
Beth Bailey,
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
John Kraus,
Yes.
Mary Coombs,
Yes.
Lisa Cantor,
Yes.
Chad Freeman.
Yes. Thank you, Marge.
Thank you.
We will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, thank you, everybody.